Hiya, Martin here. Thanks for joining me for this demonstration live from the Woodturning School here in Hampshire in the UK. I'd be really grateful if you would give this stream a like, a share, and if you are not a subscriber already, please do hit that subscribe button and the bell to be notified whenever we do either a live or produce a standalone video on its own. As this is a free to view demonstration, please be aware that there will be some product placement throughout the demonstration, and also YouTube may be placing some in-roll ads for you to take a look at. Please do watch them. It goes a long way to helping support the channel and help give us a little bit of money that we can actually continue doing what we are doing for you. Now, without further ado, here's a little bit of what goes on here at the Woodturning School and also our other business, Hampshire Sheen. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in that many minutes. Do you ever have the urge to make something with your own hands? Here at the Woodturning School, we can help get you started. We have a range of professionally led classes suitable for complete beginners through to the experienced turner. Come and enjoy the art of turning wood into bowls, pens and so much more at the Woodturning School in Hampshire. Let's explore your creativity and turn it into craftsmanship. We'll help you discover the joy of wood turning, the thrill of creating a unique wooden item and the pride of saying, "I made this." Before we crack on with the demonstration, let's just have a little think about PPE before we get started. When in the workshop, make sure that you are doing everything you possibly can to look after yourself. That includes wearing a full face shield like this one, or at the barest minimum, a pair of safety glasses like these. Or for the best protection, you could wear a full face shield and respirator setup like this one, but make sure the batteries are charged before you start. When you're sanding, make sure you are wearing a suitable dust mask or a half mask like this, or one of the powered respirators, and you have your extraction running and windows and doors open as well. And if you are using any chemical products or colours, make sure you look after the skin on your hands, particularly if you have sensitive skin, by protecting them with some suitable gloves like these nitrile ones. And finally, make sure that you follow the manufacturer's instructions for the lathe, any tools that you use, and any other products that you apply to your piece. That's it. Please do enjoy the demonstration and have fun and be safe in your workshops. There I am. Good evening, everybody. Thank you very much indeed for logging in this evening. I do hope you are all well. I'm going to go around the room, but I just need to click a little button just on the screen over here before we get fully started. Bear with me 2 ticks. There we go. I just had some on-screen stuff. So anyway, good evening, everybody. I do hope you are well. We've got a few minutes before we get started, so I hope you can all see me okay and hear me as well. So who have we got in the room tonight? We have Leisure in the UK, Brent in Canada, Anthony, good evening. Philip Greenwood's up north here in the UK. Terrington? Terry at Heckington Arts, he's sort of somewhere floating around the Midlands. Steve Gay, good evening to you too. Hayley's here as well, good evening Hayley. Simon's up in the northwest, I think, somewhere like that. Good evening Ricky in the New Forest. Alex at Wild and Things, good evening to you too. Hello, hello. Adrian O. Oh, hi Adrian, how are you? Good to see you. Ian's here as well, nice to see you too, Ian. Andy the Wivey Woodshed, he's here. B Madsen, Bruce. I'm not sure if Bruce is B Madsen's name or whether there's a place called Bruce in Denmark. I'm not sure. So hi B Madsen. Silk TV, good evening. Stephen Madden, hello, hello. Brian Libby, Rob Jones as well. Fantastic. Cool. Well, Christmas is rocking on towards us super quickly now, isn't it? I don't know about you, but we have been very busy, and now we're just beginning to sort of tail off. We've done our last lesson in the Woodturning School here, and now that gives Natalia and I a little bit more time to sort of ease down into Christmas and 2025 by finishing all of the building work. We need to build a wall in the other area, just the other side of the wall here. So we've got a little bit of time to be doing that. And I'm not going to be doing a Christmas oriented demonstration. There are loads of those around on YouTube already, but I'll show you what we're going to be turning in just a second. But no matter where you are, if you are in the UK, Denmark, USA or Canada or anywhere else, a big warm welcome to you all. Stick around until much later in the demonstration, as I do have a few discount codes to be dishing out for you. We've got one for the UK, one for Denmark and one for the USA. So if you are in any of those places, do stick around and you will get your discount code a little bit later on. Okay. Wow. Forgive me if I sound a little bit out of breath. We had a light pop the fuse at about 7:05, so I had to deal with that. And then I realised I hadn't actually sharpened my tools, so I literally turned the camera on 2 seconds after I finished sharpening my tools this evening. But we're all good to go. We're all good to go. Right, so what are we going to be turning this evening? Well, I've got this rather large lump of oak burr attached to a faceplate. If you'd like to know how big it is, I would tell you if I had a tape measure. Oh no, sorry, I have a ruler just here. It is 11 inches. It's about 11 by 4 at the moment, but I expect it will be a bit smaller by the time we finish it. So it is quite a lump. So I'll just get it onto the lathe now. If we go to the overhead camera just here, you can see that some of the bark is beginning to come away. Let's just change that camera just a touch. Yeah, you can see that some of the bark is beginning to come away. So rather than just stick it on the lathe and go straight at it with a tool, I'm going to use a screwdriver to start prying off some of this bark. Just get rid of the loose stuff before we start turning. Let's use a different camera. There we go. Yeah, just get rid of some of this loose stuff before we get going. I will start the turn wearing a face shield. As you probably know, when I demonstrate, I don't normally wear a face shield because it's more comfortable not to, and you guys can hear me a bit better if I'm just wearing glasses. But that's pretty much all I can get off. It's just that little bit just there. So the chance of doing a live edge piece with this was pretty much a no-go even before I picked up the blank from the wood store. No, that'll do. Okay, move the tool rest into position and don my face shield. I'm actually going to take my hat off. You don't often see me without my hat on, but I've got it. Oh, undo the tailstock, bring that up, and then we'll come back over here. So you can see we've got quite a chunk on the lathe at the moment. So the first part of this is going to be turning pretty slowly, and my weapon of choice for the start of this is going to be a 1/2 inch bowl gouge. This is a Sorby 1/2 inch bowl gouge, and if we compare it to my 3/8 bowl gouge, you can see that the 1/2 inch here is considerably more chunky than the 3/8. So this is a good choice to start with to begin roughing this piece down. So I'm going to sound funny for a minute because my face shield's down. Just going to make sure that nothing is going to hit the tool rest. Just adjust this camera. I keep swinging it the wrong way. I forgot to mention right at the beginning that Natalia is here keeping an eye on questions. So if you do have any questions, please do leave them in the chat, and Natalia will ask them on your behalf if I don't see them running in the chat. Okay. Right. So 1/2 inch bowl gouge on the go just here. Just reorganise this camera just a touch. Nothing's going to hit. Just check my heights. That's looking good. I might drop the tool rest down just a little bit. Just there. Now I do have the bench camera on here, so you can see just how low I keep the tool when I'm doing the turning. Slow the lathe all the way down to start with, and then we can just slowly bring that up to speed. We don't want the lathe to be wobbling at the moment. Well, we don't want the lathe wobbling at all, to be honest. So I'm just going to bring it up to a reasonable speed. That's only 460 RPM at the moment. I'm going to present the tool with the handle down like this, and then just ease the tool into the cut. Just allow the wood to come down onto the tool. The piece isn't particularly round at the moment, so we've got to go carefully. There's no need to rush, nobody's got to drive home. We're just going to slowly take this bit by bit. And the piece will slowly get nice and round, and the cuts will be easier. There we go. That's quite a good angle there on the screen that you can see where the handle's nice and low. If I just twist that camera just a touch, whoops, not that way. I keep doing that. I keep knocking the camera the wrong direction. So I'll just stop there. Now the most important part that I'm looking at here for being round is the very top sort of half to 3/4 of an inch. I would like to get through this bark area here, but I will just see how it sort of feels as we get round it. But the main thing is I want to get rid of that flat spot just there. So I've just slid the tool rest in just a little bit more, so I can keep the tool nicely presented. No danger of a catch snapping the tool or anything like that. Come in there. Now we're getting into some bark, and there'll be a little bit of debris coming off, but because I have my face shield on, it's just bouncing off, so that's all good. Now, do I leave that bit? Do I leave this bit here? See, I already know the bark is likely to come off. That bit's going to disappear anyway. We'll see. I don't know. If I do take it off, I've got to take off another, well, you can't quite see it, but I've got another 1/2 inch back here. So if I take that off round there, if I just pull that up to about there actually, and I have a look at the shape that I've got, I think I could probably leave it in and just see what happens to it. Because if I take it off, I think the bowl might end up really small, and I don't want that. So yeah, we'll see. There's a knot here as well. That could be quite interesting. It could turn out to be quite an interesting demo tonight, actually. Not that my demos are ever uninteresting. Slide the tailstock out of the way, and I will swing it out the way there, which means we can use the tail cam, the tailstock camera. There we go. So I've taken the tailstock away. Going to bring the tool rest up so it's a little bit below the center line. You can just about make out the impression there from the live center. I can squeeze that rest in just a touch tighter. Okay, so the main job here is to make a flat spot on the bottom so we can create a tenon or a chucking point rather. Slide that over just a little bit more. Oh no, just making contact. Now I can see now that the tool rest is a little bit too high. When I present the tool with the handle down, I'm cutting above my center line there, which isn't good. So I want to drop the tool rest down a little bit to a position where I can present the tool with the handle down, cutting right on center, which is just there. Now I can start working my way through the bark. I'm still going fairly slow. I'm still under 500 RPM. I want the tool rest down a little bit lower. I can speed the lathe up just a little bit. Beginning to get a wobble just there at 560. But it's still steady enough, so that's all good. Just glide through the cuts, taking it nice and easy, remembering that I still have air that I'm cutting. If I put the overhead camera on in a second, you'll be able to see the ghosting that I'm dealing with. Camera 1. Zoom in a little bit. That's probably a little bit too much. Yeah, so you may be able to see the ghosting. You can see some ghosting out here. Now you can see some ghosting out here where there's wood, air, wood, air, wood, air. That gives you a really good clue that your tool presentation needs to be absolutely spot on. For this, nice and gradual, nice and gentle, no pressure into the wood. Start the cut. let me just lower that tool rest down again, start the cut and make sure that the depth of the cut just here is kept. Come out, I've got a lump over here, there it is, coming back in. So I'm coming all the way out, making sure that I'm taking off any lumps and bumps. There's some debris coming off now. Coming out nice and easy. Let's go back over the top. That could be quite an interesting shot for you. You can see now that we're starting to lose the lumps on the surface here, but we still have the air around the corner. So we've got to be very careful. Now back here, I'm not through the bark layer yet. I've got to get through that in order to put on a secure chucking point. Oop. Getting there. See now, the Taurus is possibly a little bit low now. Come out nice and easy. So with each couple of cuts, I'm just tweaking the speed of the lathe up just a little bit at a time. There we are. There's a little bit more. There's a little bit more solid wood just coming through there. Let's have a look. Yeah, we're getting down here to some more solid wood now, which is good. Let's just switch the camera angle and we'll come back to there. Yeah, getting there slowly. A few more cuts and we'll be able to have a decent tenon. So whilst I'm concentrating on this, I can't see any of the comments, and Natalia hasn't said that there are any questions. So there is a question. Natalia says, "Okay, far away."
Do you know what is difference between Burl and Burr?
There is no difference between Burr and Burl. This is a Burr in the UK, but in the US it will be a Burl. At least, I don't think there is a physical difference. It's just the way, well, it's tomato and tomato, isn't it? Or potato and potato. It's just the different things that we call them. Now the sloping cutting angle here that I'm giving, there we go, look at that, we're almost there. A couple more cuts. I just want to get rid of this little bit of bark just here, and then I'll have a decent tenon. So the sloping cutting angle that I'm giving the gouge just here enables me to present the tool with like a French guillotine. Let me show you on a model of a bowl gouge. I have a large bowl gouge just here, 3D printed. So most of the time when I present a tool to the work, let me just lift up the face shield. Most of the time I present the tool with the handle quite a long way down. And if we just look at the tailstock camera, ooh, is that the right camera? Yes, the tailstock camera. You can see that if I present the tool how I do normally, you can see that the cutting edge here is sloping. That's quite akin to a printer's guillotine, or dare I say a French guillotine. That sloping cutting edge gives a nice clean cut. Whereas if we present the tool like this, the handle, let's just move that out of the way, the handle is still down, but the cutting edge here is almost parallel to the wood coming down on top of it. Now I find this to be really important. If the cutting edge is parallel to the wood coming down on top of it, what you end up with is that almost the entire wing there is trying to cut the wood all at once. It's a simultaneous cut straight across there. It's very big and very long. But if we drop that handle down and slope that cutting edge, the action of the slope still means we can take a really big cut when it's appropriate to do so, but it's a much safer cut because we're slicing through the wood rather than having the wood trying to get chopped on that slightly higher angle of cutting edge. Right, let's crack on with this. Couple more cuts and we'll be ready to go. I'm a little bit far away now. Let's tuck that in and we'll go back over the top. And we'll do a couple of cuts over the top here. Slightly adjust the tool rest. There. Come along there, nice and steady. There's some air, you can hear that as we come round there. Or as we come along there. Clunk, 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 clunk. There. Clunk, clunk, clunk. See, I want my tenon to be somewhere, let me find a pencil. My tenon needs to be somewhere around there. Somewhere around that pencil mark. And I've still got this area of bark just here, and I'm not going to trust it. I'm not going to trust that little bit of area there in that little area of bark where I want the tenon to be. Even though all of the rest of this is okay, that I'm not really happy to trust. So we will take a few more cuts off the bottom here. Safety in mind, of course. So we'll come along there, we'll take another one. I would rather have a slightly shorter bowl than I would a bowl in my head. Hence why I'm being very careful here to make sure I put on a suitable chucking point. A little bit longer, or a little bit more rather. I think that's probably got it. Let me just get the dividers out so I can mark this off. It looks like there's a question.
Yes. Richard is asking, can you go a lot faster speed on a lathe so the vibration gets less? Your lathe looks big enough to take it, or is it too dangerous?
Oh, Richard, that's a really good question. Let me show you this. Let's see if I can get this to do it. Okay, so I was turning at about just under 600 RPM. Yes, my lathe weighs somewhere around 300 kilos, but I've got two sets of bearings in here. I've got a bearing at the back of the headstock and a bearing at the front. And whilst the lathe is running and it's not vibrating, the bearings are happy. When I get to a particular point, which I may not actually get to now because I've balanced it quite well, the lathe can start to wobble and shake. Now, when that happens, it's literally unstable. The blank being unbalanced, denser on one side than on the other. It's shaking the lathe left and right, which is putting some stress on the bearings. Now, stressed bearings, are going to die relatively quickly. So if you get shake on the lathe, the safest thing to do is slow it down. The piece of wood and the lathe are telling you it's not happy shaking left and right. Just the same as when you throw a weight off the wheel of your car, one of the little balancing things after you've had a new tyre put on. At 64 miles an hour, the wheel starts to shake and wobble, but you increase that speed to 73 miles an hour, for example, that wobble disappears. it doesn't mean it's any safer to be driving at 74 miles an hour than it is at 63 or whatever it is. You can be stressing the lathe. Also, if your piece is massively unbalanced like that and the lathe's wobbling and you speed through it, the fact that it's wobbling should tell you that there's something not happy with the wood. So the safest thing to do is slow the lathe down until the wobble stops. That will be safer to turn, and it'll also be better for the bearings for you too. And it will also make you really concentrate on your tool presentation, turning at a slower speed. Okay, I hope that helps, Richard. Right, let me see if I can get these. Let me see if I can get a decent tenon on here. It's a little bit low, that. So I've got these marked out for my big set of gripper jaws. Oh, look at that, straight away. And so I'm going to look at that. Yeah, I'm happy with that. We are virtually all the way through the bark just here. Virtually all the way through the bark just there. So I'm happy to put a tenon on here now. So there's my mark. You can see it there. Yeah, you can see it quite easily. Drop the tool rest down, and now we can start chomping through this area back here. See what I can get speed wise out of it. Okay, little wobble there at just over 700 RPM. So I'm going to start to just eat away at this corner gradually, very carefully to start with. Because as I come through here, you'll be able to see that we're getting wood, air, wood, air. Oh, I'll come through there very gradually, very carefully. Keep that tool presentation as good as possible. Good tool presentation means you're much more likely to cut than you are if you are essentially scraping. Let's change the camera angle a bit. I'm just coming back there to my mark. See if I can speed up a touch. So I can't be as aggressive as I am normally on these cuts, because I am cutting, as I've said, I'm cutting air, so I need to be really careful. Whoop. Round that corner. Ooh. Getting debris. Just being very cautious as I come round that corner. Make the tenon. That's about as deep as I want to go actually with the tenon. And if we stop the lathe there, we can see roughly what we're dealing with. That's really nice. That's a nice piece of wood, that. So now I'm going to put the tenon on. I need to make sure that this surface here is flat, so the jaws have got something to support the piece against. I'm going to move over to half-inch spindle gouge now to put the tenon on nicely. Should we go over the top? Yeah, let's go over the top. Right, camera 1. Swing it back that way, and we can then zoom in. Just slide it over this way just a touch. There we go. Right, so I need a square tenon for the jaws that I'm going to use. So I'm going to line the spindle gouge, or the bevel of the spindle gouge, up with the lathe bed. You can see the lathe bed just down there. And the bevel there, parallel to the lathe bed, is going to give me a nice square tenon. If my head wasn't in the way. I actually need my safety glasses on underneath the face shield now because I can't see what I'm doing. So you can start to see now the tenon just there is parallel to the lathe bed pretty much. That's exactly what I need for a nice secure grip. Get my head out of the way. And now the bevel's parallel to the tool rest. That's going to give me a nice stable shoulder for the jaws to sit on. Just back there, and we'll look at that camera there. So coming across there, giving myself a nice long run up into that shoulder, lift the handle as we get in towards the join there, and then if we look over the top you can see that we've got a nice 90 degree shoulder in there to support the piece on the jaws. That's looking spectacularly good. Not the tenon, the piece of wood, I mean. Okay, right, I can put that spindle gouge away. Now, for those of you who've seen any of my demos before, I do like my rule of thirds. I do like the foot of a bowl to be about a third of the diameter. Yes, I know, I can hear you saying it. Oh, another bowl with a foot a third of the diameter. Yes, because it works. And I don't want to be doing anything different to this. The wood has got a good amount of grain in it to keep somebody looking at it interested. So we don't need to be overly fussy or overly pernickety with the shape that we're going to produce. Something nice and simple. Simple is very often the best way to be doing things. We don't need to overcomplicate our designs in bowls or vases or anything else. Keep it simple. Right, what was I doing? Oh yeah, marking on a foot. So I'm going to rub my head because that face shield's a bit tight. Okay, so I'm going to start the lathe up, and at arm's length I'm going to lean down with a pencil, look at the diameter of the piece, work out roughly a third, and say about there. You can't see that, but oh, you still can't see it. That will come into focus in a second. Hang on, give it a mo. Focus, there we go. Right, so there's my third, roughly. If we just zoom out of that camera just a little bit. That is a rough third of the diameter. The finished diameter, because we're still probably going to be taking a little bit off. I've always been a fan of feet a third of the diameter and a tiny, tiny little bit smaller than a third. Now, if you know anything about the golden ratio, then 2 times the golden ratio is just under a third of your first value. Too complicated to go into it now. I'll do a demo on the golden ratio in 2025. Right, okay, let's start putting on a shape, shall we? Now we can start getting a little bit more aggressive with these cuts. Just a touch, because we still have some debris to come off around here. There's still a little bit of air that we need to play with. So tool rest down below the centre line. See if I can squeeze the lathe speed up a little bit. I'd like to be up around 800 if I can. Just about. Yeah, I'm flickering at 799. Now, you're going to have to bear with me a second. The gouge needs a sharpen. Now, the only problem with the new workshop is I haven't figured out where to put my Pro Edge just yet. So if I put you onto that camera, that one, number 2. There we go. Right, and I swing you round that way. You can see that my Pro Edge is actually at the other end of the workshop at the moment. Or rather, our workshop Pro Edge is over there. So if I wander off over here, you should still be able to hear me. Half-inch bowl gouge, sharpened the same as my other bowl gouges, which is 50 degrees. I don't know why I'm shouting, because my microphone's here. Anyway. So very quickly, 40 degrees on the Pro Set, hole number 3 on the long grind jig, and all we're going to need is a few seconds on the belt just to get an edge back on there. Now you'll notice when it comes to sharpening burrs that your gouges will probably go dull relatively quickly, and that's because there's dirt and crap and stuff in the burrs that as you cut it starts to dull your gouge really quickly. So just be aware that if your gouge starts to feel dull, it obviously needs sharpening, and the more you know and understand your gouge and the wood you're turning, you'll be able to work out really very quickly just when it needs to be sharpened. So I was a little bit late sharpening that, because I actually had to go, oh, my gouge is dull, rather than I'll sharpen it. And you can immediately see how much better that's cutting. Nice and easy round the corner, or as we start to go round the corner. And Natalia says there's another question.
Yeah, Richard asking, what grid belt did you use?
On that particular belt over there, Richard, we have a 180 grit belt. My Pro Edge has a diamond belt on it. So the school tools are sharpened on a 120 grit, or touched up with a 120 grit belt. My personal gouges are touched up on put my teeth in, a diamond. Okay, so I'm just going to come round the corner now. You can see that I still have the handle down in that nice sloping cutting edge. And if we go over the top, let's just zoom out just a touch. Oop. Wrong way, that way. You can see that I'm trying to get a nice elegant curve flowing round here. So I've got to a point now where the shape is more important to me. The shape is far more important to me now than the figure in the wood or the bark. I now want to make sure that I'm getting the best possible shape that I can out of the blank. And if I need to lose some wood in order to do that, then I will. I'm not sentimental about the wood. If I've got a blank that's in this case 11 by 4, and I need to lose the top inch and a bit in order to get a shape that I like, then I'm going to lose that inch and a bit at the top to get the shape that I like, to get the best shape out of the wood. Now this is looking really nice. I think I don't know. I'm going to finish the shape that I want and refine it if I need to. And if we just look again at the top here, what I'm looking for, again, this is sort of mixing two different, wrong way, this is mixing like two different demonstrations into one. What I'm looking for in the curve of the bowl, here's the tenon, this is going to be waste. Okay, we're going to be getting rid of the tenon later, and here's the foot of the bowl just here. Let me put something underneath there so you can see that perhaps a little bit better. Let's just put that folder under there. Can you see that? Yeah, that'll do. So tenon is waste, that's going to disappear. Then we have the foot of the piece just here where my fingertips are sitting. Then we've got the shape of the bowl here. I want the outside shape of the bowl to disappear into the foot. I don't want the curve of the bowl to appear to end here or inside the tenon. I want the curve of the bowl to appear to finish inside the foot, and that will help the piece not look like it is sitting in a hole on the table or the sideboard wherever it ends up. Right, okay, so let's come back round here. Face shield down again. I'm getting to a point where I don't really need the face shield, or I don't feel I need it. So I'm moving my body round in an arc shape. I'll put the body cam on, as it were, so you can see what's happening. So I'm actually stood slightly behind the piece at the moment. My feet are parallel to, or my toes are parallel to the lathe bed. I'm going to start with my weight biased over my right foot. If I start with my weight biased over the right foot, as I come round the curve, I can move my body weight across to my left foot, nice and easily. And I don't have to start moving my feet in order to get the cut that I want. Now looking at the bowl from above, I can see that I've got a little bit of a lump just here, and the sides are a little bit straight. I'm not happy with that, so I'm going to take a little bit more off the side here, just to try and smooth that curve out a little bit. And the gouge is dulling very, very quickly, so I'm going to switch over to a 3/8 gouge in a minute. So we've got that little lump just there which I want to get rid of. I do that nice swaying motion again with my hips, keep the tool into my body, come round that corner nicely, and you can see that curve beginning. You can see that curve beginning to shallow off a little bit. Must be able to speed it up more now. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, we're up to just under 1,000 RPM now, so that's good. That's giving me a much nicer cut. Nice and easy. I'm in no rush. Even though this is a demo piece, I'm in no real rush. I live on site. You guys don't have to drive home anywhere. But obviously, I don't want to spend all evening faffing around with a bowl. But now we're starting to get that really lovely curve shape. There's no lump in it anywhere. It's just nice and smooth around the piece. Now you may have noticed that there's a little split in the top here. I spotted that earlier. The piece has been in the workshop for a couple of days, so it's probably reacted a little bit to the heat. But I did fill it up with some CA glue earlier on today. So we're going to come around there now. Let's stop and take a look. That's look. You know, I'm going to leave that. I'm going to leave that bark on the side there. It looks pretty stable. Looking back down here, it looks pretty stable. Yeah, it looks pretty good. And there's an inclusion there as well. I don't want to take any more off that. I'm going to leave it. I'm also going to take off my face shield as well, and just use safety glasses. So oops, that's that's me talking out my backside. Right. So I'm now happy with that. The inclusions are okay. I quite like that. There's a knot just here that's got quite a large. Can we zoom in there? Bit closer still. Oh yeah, look at that. Wrong way. Back there. Yeah. So we've got a knot just here. Look. Move that round. We've got a knot. Let me put my finger there and it will focus on that. Bit too close, I think. So we've got a knot just there, and there's a little bit of tear out kicking up off that knot. So I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll do a few little shear cuts around there, see if we can get rid of that. So the 1/2 inch spindle gouge is now dead. I'm going to move across to my 3/8 Excelsior gouge, and we'll go with the tailstock cam for this, I think. I'm going to lower the tool rest down really quite nice and low, and then present the tool with the handle low. You can see how low that is, and then over the top of the tool, there we go. I'm going to almost close the flute completely until there's only 1/2 millimetre between the gouge and the surface, and then I can just come round there super slowly, super carefully. Let me just move the camera back a little bit. Hopefully my head's not getting in the way. Those nice, you can see here that we're getting some teeny tiny little shavings. That's exactly what I'm looking for. I don't want dust at this point. Dust is for sanding, not for tools. I'm going to see if I can get a little bit more speed out of the lathe, which I can. That's good. We're now up to 11:30. And just come round there very easily, nice and carefully. You may be able to hear that knot just ticking over the gouge as we come round there. Let me just use the body cam to show you an alternative position. Just looking at the surface there, that's good. Yeah, those last little fluffy bits on the knot are going to have to wait. Okay, so there we go, handle down, look, nice and low. Left hand on the tool rest, little bit of flex in my knees so I can move, and then use my whole body to move the tool around the piece, nice and gradually. Feather-like touches on the wood, so we're just dressing the surface, as it were. Now if we go back over the top, and hopefully the camera will focus on the actual wood and not on the tool, on the tool rest. Let's just flick it back that way and zoom out a little bit. There you go. Yeah, you should be able to see now that surface is more than acceptable for sanding. It's super smooth. Got a few little check marks around here. I'm going to keep a little eye on those. I don't want to put any more glue in it if I can possibly help it, because it will affect how the finish looks. So next thing, I'm just lifting up the blast gate here. We are going to do a little bit of sanding, and then I'm going to decide what I'm going to do next. Is there going to be colour, or is there not going to be colour? So just while I sand this, think about it. Am I going to be controversial enough to throw some colour on it? Let me know what you think. And the other thing that's going to be slightly controversial is Martin uses a drill to sand and not a standard bowl sander. So just above my head here I have a fan. I'm just tilting that down and I can switch that on. Can you make sure the other blast gates are closed on the lathes, please? Find my mask, that's important. And we're going to start sanding at 120 and then work our way down to 400. Oh, I'm just seeing the comments coming in about colour. Oh dear, what am I going to do? Okay, so let's move the tailstock cam in. Let's just zoom that out just a little bit. So I'm going to, even though I'm using a drill, I'm still going to be working below the centre line.
dust mask on, safety glasses on, and then just come round there nice and easily. Being careful where we still have some inclusions, not to go too mad. Make sure I get right down here into the foot of the piece. I slightly overcut the foot just here. You can't see it. You can't see it very well, so I'm just making sure that I get rid of that little overcut mark. And also notice that even though I'm working right in the bottom there, I'm actually working on the whole side round here, so I don't lose a flat spot. Nearly there. You know me, everybody, it's got to be right. Yep. Couple more seconds and then that'll be good. And then just roll that up there. Stop the lathe and check. Yeah, that looks good. I like that. That's a beautiful piece of wood, that. Okay, 120 grit, and then we'll come straight down to 180. Now, of course, each grit now will need less time than the previous one. And be very careful up round here. Is it that button? No. Just trying to find the right button. Ah, there we go. Nice high view of the top of the lathe so you can see what I'm doing. Rolling round, using my whole body to move that drill round. So that's 180 grit done. I probably overdid that one, to be honest. Overdid that a little bit. Now we can do 240, and I'll stop at 400 like usual. Can't see the point in going beyond 400 grit. But what I will do on 240 is just stop and check for any tool marks. Now I'm looking at the top of the piece just here. Oh, you can't see that. Zoom in. I'm just looking at the top of the piece, and I can see that there are some tool marks. They're very faint. There. I think you might be able to see them now. They are very, very faint. There's just a couple of little tool marks up there, and I want them gone. I don't want those tool marks there at all. So I'm going to come back up to 120. Sorry if you get bored that I'm sanding a bit, but it's got to be right. The devil is in the detail. It's not going to take long to finish it, so I've got to make sure that it's right before we move on. So just a few seconds up there with the 120, and then I'm going to stop the lathe, come back over the top and have a look. I can just about make them out. They're very, very faint. So I'll do a little bit more with the 120 grit. Just go round the corner. I'll do a little bit more with the 120. Stop the lathe one more time and have a look. That's got it. That's got rid of them. Now we can whiz down through the 180 grit again and the 240. Around there. That's the 180 grit. Then we can do the 240. Whoops. Come round there nice and easy. Sorry, change the camera. Now I'm going to stop there once more, because remember, this is where we stopped last time and we found those tool marks. Just looking around again, I'm being very careful to check. That all looks good to me. So that was 240. Now we can do the last one, which is the 400. So we'll do a few seconds on the 400. Come on there. Okay, right, we'll switch the extractor off. That looks really, really nice. Just trying to get my mask off. Oh.
Natalia, it sounds like Natalia's got a couple of questions.
There were more yeses than no's.
More yeses for colour than no's, that's interesting.
Yeah. Clara and her friends voted yes.
Oh, Clara, Clara, everybody is my daughter. She's at university in Chichester.
Yep.
So they want some colour, okay.
If colour, then many people voted for F. There was one person with plum, which I think might be interesting.
Was that Billy? Wanted plum.
Sorry, I can't remember.
Okay.
And there are a few questions as well.
Okay, let's go through those questions
and
quickly.
Also, many people voted for oil.
Ah, yes. Well, the clue of the demonstration is in the title, or was in the description. Finished with oil. Yes, definitely oil. And I'll go into my finishing choices in a little while. Now, as for the colour, yeah, I'm going to add a little bit of colour. Natalia's just put her hand up.
So how dry was the wood when you started?
That's a very good question. How dry was the wood? I did actually check it. It was on the surface, or the available surface, it was between 12.6 and 13.5%, which is absolutely ideal for me when it comes to my preferred moisture level. I don't like it when it's too wet, and likewise I don't like it when it's too dry.
Another question, could you use a scraper at this stage?
Could I use a scraper? Very, very good question. You could use a scraper. You could, sorry, dry lips. You could use a scraper if you wanted to, but I wouldn't. If you can learn to cut properly with the good tool presentation, then do so. Otherwise, yes, by all means, use a scraper, but use the scraper as sharp as possible on the bevel, and really light cuts. Just kiss the surface as you come round there. But if you can cut it, then do cut it. Right, another question.
How dry was
The
wood when you started, and could it twist more after it finished?
As I said, the wood was between 12.5 and 13.5% moisture. Will it move after I finished it? Probably, but not a great deal, because it was pretty much as low as it's going to go anyway.
Last question for now. Have you got a fan on top blowing the dust down as well as the extractor?
Good question. Yes, there is a fan just above my head here. that blows down round my shoulders or round my neck onto the piece, which then blows it down into the extractor that is just here. We also have an air filter that's running at the same time, so we've got the fan blowing everything, or 99% of it blowing down there, the extractor's on, and also there's an air filter as well. So anyway, right. Right, colour. Yes, we are going to do some colour, and I had, to be honest, I had already decided pretty much to do some colour to it. Now, the new studio has a permanent airbrush setup. I think. Is that going to work? Yes. Okay. Now, do I remember which button it is for those colours? Yeah, there we go. Look. It's all super slick here at the Woodturning School. Right. Here is my box of the intrinsic colours and the carnival colours. Now, obviously, we've got a range of 20 colours now, and to keep this bowl as simple as possible, we do need a simple colour. And the simple colour, whoever guessed earth, is right. We are going to do it earth, so we're going to complement the natural brown of the wood with some brown, some earth colour, which I can't find. Burnt orange. It's always the last one you pick up. There you go. Earth. Now, if you have ever used the intrinsic colour collection before, or even if you haven't used the intrinsic colour collection before, you can use them through an airbrush straight out of the bottle. They don't need any further thinning down. They don't need any further thinning. Just use them straight out of the bottle. But of course you can thin them down if you want to, and if you want to thin them down, then use water. They are water-based colours, so use water. Let me just give that a little bit of a tug. Okay, right, so tool rest cam, come in there a little bit closer. Okay, so there's the airbrush that I'm using. I'm using a siphon feed airbrush. It's made by a company called Fengda. If we go over the top, can we see that? Fengda. There you go. You can just about read it there. It's a Fengda BD182. It's about 30 quid, and they are just brilliant. A superb entry-level airbrush. And it's a dual action airbrush, so you press once, you press down for air and back for the colour. And this little bit at the back here, you can see I can't pull the trigger back very far. This bit here, we can unscrew that, and then the trigger comes back further, which allows more paint to come through. So I'm going to do this with the lathe running, but I'm going to give you a slightly wider view. Yeah, that'll do. I will do myself a little test. Now let's use the tailstock camera. I don't use that very often because normally the tailstock's in the way. Okay, right, that's looking a little bit yellow on the screen, to be honest. So I'm going to have the lathe running, and all I want to do is put a little bit of a gradient on the bottom here. I don't want to go mad. You know, I'm not completely nuts to colour an entire Burr piece all the time. So all I want to do is just put a little gradient on the bottom, just to give the piece a touch of something different. So I do myself a little test spray first. Point away from the piece, to give it a squirt on the towel. There we go, we can see the colour coming out. Start the lathe. I'm going to run the lathe relatively fast because I want to have a nice even coverage. And I'm going to aim just down here into the foot, just into the foot area, in there. And then as I come up and out, I'm moving the brush away from the piece as we go, and I'm stopping that gradient about halfway up. Let's just give you an alternative view. There you go. Let's have a look over the top. There we go. So you can see that we're getting a gradient just sort of halfway up the piece. Now when the piece is the right way up and on a table or a sideboard, that darkness that we've added underneath there is going to add a little bit more depth to the shadow underneath to make the piece look a little bit more powerful, as it were. And that's all I want to do. I don't want to do any more than that. Just a hint of colour. We can still see the grain through the piece. Sorry, we can still see the grain through the colour, which is a good thing for those purists out there. So we've just added just a little bit just to make that piece a little bit different to other pieces. And it's a natural colour as well. At least I didn't do it red. But I've still got the inside to do. But I wouldn't dare do it red. Not on YouTube anyway. I would at a club. Right, okay, so that's that done. I'm going to make sure it's dry before we put the oil on. So I'm going to start it up. And in the absence of a hot air gun for the moment, I'm going to use a little bit of kitchen towel just to burnish it dry. There, I really like that. That looks nice. And then to finish it off, we're going to use a coat of, where is it? I haven't got it here. Hampshire Sheen Danish oil. Just a very simple coat. Normally I would put on 2 or 3 coats over the course of about 24 hours, but we don't have 24 hours. We have 1 and a bit hours left. So single coat of the Danish oil, nice thick pad of kitchen towel. Whoops. Yes, I spilt it. And then we'll just wipe that on. Now up here, look, we've got some. We've got the bark in the wood there, so I'm going to have to be. Ideally, I'd use a brush in there, but I don't have one to hand, or at least I don't have one that I'm willing to trash. So I'll probably do the oil in there tomorrow. And I don't want to pour it in either, because that would just be. I could do that. Get it on the corner of the towel and just kind of stab it in. But anyway, you get the idea. You know, I'm wiping oil onto a piece of wood. You get the idea. Put a little bit more on. See, so hopefully you'll agree that the addition of that colour there makes the piece a little bit more bold, but it takes almost nothing, or it doesn't take anything away from the piece. Look, if the piece was naturally that colour, you would never ever know. I'm being careful not to get any sort of on the tenon there, and that looks lovely. Let's just zoom that out a little bit. Splendid. Right, put the lid back on the bottle, and then we will stop for a 10-minute comfort break after I have wiped off the excess. So there we go, that's the outside of the Burr piece done. If you are waiting for the discount codes for the UK, Denmark and the US, then they will be coming up in the second half for you. And if you are watching from the US, I will be demonstrating again live on Tuesday, December 17th. I'll be doing a glass-like lacquering demonstration for you starting at 7:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. And if you're in the UK and you want to watch that, you can tune in live from 1:30 a.m. on Wednesday the 18th. Okay, right, there we go. So that's the oil on, and we've just given that a little bit of a wipe off just to take off the excess. And now we're going to take a 10-minute comfort break where you guys can go and get yourselves another bottle of wine or what have you, and I'm going to have a bottle of water, I think. So anyway, thank you very much indeed. I'll see you in 10. Do you ever have the urge to make something with your own hands? Here at the Woodturning School, we can help get you started. We have a range of professionally led classes suitable for complete beginners through to the experienced turner. Come and enjoy the art of turning wood into bowls, pens and so much more at the Woodturning School in Hampshire. Let's explore your creativity and turn it into craftsmanship. We'll help you discover the joy of wood turning, the thrill of creating a unique wooden item and the pride of saying, I made this. Hello again, everybody. Thank you very much indeed for sticking around. During the break, I swapped over the chuck, took the faceplate off the piece, and sorted out the coal jaws. Now I do have a set of Longworth jaws, but I haven't actually managed to get them onto a chuck yet. So we'll be using coal jaws. So there were a few questions during the very end of the last bit, which I'm happy to answer now. Natalia's going to go through those with me for you.
Are you going to blow the dust out of the piece?
Good question. Yes, I forgot to blow the dust out of the piece after I did the sanding, but I did it during the break. So I have blown it out and I've just given it another little wipe over just to get rid of the dust.
Nigel is asking, what are the pins in the top of your airbrush bottle for?
Good question. Let's just take a look at that. What are the pins in the airbrush bottle? Right, so here is the airbrush bottle. Honey, can you just check the stream on YouTube? Go, just pop onto YouTube and see what's going on. Right, so here is an airbrush bottle, and you'll see that the cap or the top of the airbrush bottle here has a little hole in the top. That's because with the siphon feed it sucks the colour out of the bottle, and as it does that it creates a sort of a partial vacuum here, which makes it more difficult to suck the colour out of. So there's a little hole in the top there to allow air into the void that the vacating colour is making. The little pin is just a map pin here that sits in that hole there and goes some way to stop some evaporation whilst the stops evaporation whilst the bottle's in storage, and the same with this little rubber cap just here that sits over there just to help reduce evaporation during storage. Natalia's hat is finished, and I will have to ask somebody nicely if they will show the hat, because it wasn't for Natalia or I, it was actually for a friend. So we'll ask them. Right. The other question was sanding sealer and oil. So I used an oil finish. Now oils are designed to penetrate the wood, and so is sanding sealer. Sanding sealer is designed to sort of penetrate the wood and seal it up, which is no good if we're using an oil. So when we use an oil finish, you put the oil on the wood so it can do what it is supposed to do, which is be absorbed by the wood. If we put sealer on before the oil can't always get into where it needs to, so you end up with a gloopy, horrible mess on the surface. However, You can do it the other way round. You can use oil first and then put sealer on over the top. I've been doing it for years. So long as the oil has cured properly, you can put sealer over the top, no problem at all. But you must ensure that that oil has cured properly. I've been doing it for years and years and years. Right, let's do the inside of this. So we now have a nice big set of gripper jaws on the lathe. There they are. Now, I did actually make the Tennant a smidge too big, just a hair too big, but it's not going to make much difference to it. If I just clamp that down now, you can see that the carriage of the jaws are sticking out a little bit. It's not ideal, but I'm still going to get a decent enough grip. Ideally, that Tennant does need to be 2 or 3 mil smaller. So that's on there. Now I'm going to slow the lathe down. We'll just zoom out a little bit. Can I zoom out a little bit, or is that already zoomed out? No, that's going the wrong way. Come on, camera. There we go. Let's just zoom that out there and reset that. So if I slow the lathe down and start it up, that's running nice and true. I'm happy with that. And with that angle there, I think you'll see that although there is a little bit of colour on the bottom, that gradient actually adds something to it. Adds just a little extra to the piece. So let's dig this out now. I do need to be careful. There is a split just up here. Whoops. Okay. There is a little split just up here, but I did mention that split to you earlier. I can't see it now. There it is. I did mention it to you earlier. It has been filled with some CA glue in there, quite a lot actually. So let's get this piece done now. You can see I've got a centre mark just in here somewhere. Those pencil marks are from using the centre finder to give me my best centre. I'll come back to a 3/8 bowl gouge. I don't think we really need a 1/2 inch. The piece isn't that big really to warrant a 1/2 inch bowl gouge. Get my tourist to the right height to start with. That's important. There we go. So at the end of the cut, with the handle almost parallel to the floor and the flute open, this is the position I want the gouge in at the very bottom of the cut. I can speed the lathe up a little bit more. Safety glasses on, and I'll just start to take a few cuts out of here. Nice gradual little cuts. I think you'll get a better view from that camera, to be honest. There we go. I'm taking these cuts nice and steady. I need to bear in mind that the pieces are Burr, so the grain in the wood is moving or is running in lots of different directions at the same time. Oh, the CA glue, I used thin. I used thin CA glue in that little split just to make sure it goes all the way to the bottom. There we go. I'll take a few more cuts and then I'll go into a bit more detail about Right, let me finish that sentence. I'll take a few more cuts and then we'll go into a little bit more detail about the process of turning the inside. But I'm sure many of you have already seen my bowl turning process many times. Go easy round here, a few little cuts across the surface. should have done this at the start. Now I do need to bear in mind where we've got that inclusion up here. I don't want to get rid of, oh, there we go, you can see it now. I don't really want to cut my bowl rim too thin in here, because this is just bark, and if I cut the bowl rim back here, that's just going to leave me with a big hole in the side, and I don't really want that. Roy's the boy. Yes, you will get adverts through the live stream. Right, let me just finish this cut and then I'll finish what I was saying. Right, let me just zoom out of there just a little bit. So, wall thickness wise, I've got the bark just here, and if I cut the wall down into there somewhere, that's going to leave me with a lump of bark and nothing to support it. So that piece of bark will probably fall out, and I don't really want that. I don't really want that bark to fall out, so I'm going to have to think of a slightly thicker wall thickness here, a slightly wider wall thickness, but we'll see that when we get down there. But another thing you'll notice here is that the surface I'm getting off the tool is absolutely super smooth. Now, of course, that is all down to tool presentation. Now, if I come and find a different demo, yeah, is that going to work? Hang on a minute. Yes, I think this will sort of work. It's not ideal. So let's just pull that up. No, it's not ideal, so we won't worry about it. We won't worry about that. But it's all down to tool presentation and keeping the bevel of the tool in contact with the wood. So if I do a few more cuts, because there's quite a lot of wood to get rid of in this piece. So I'll just take a little bit hard into the top of that there. Look at those shavings flying, that's lovely that. Okay, right. So what I will do, actually, and you'll need to use your imagination a little bit for this. So, to get a surface, to get a nice smooth surface like this off the tool on the inside of a bowl, it's absolutely vitally important that we keep the bevel parallel to, well, it's vitally important that we keep the bevel lightly in contact with the wood. And if we want a parallel wall, we need to make sure that the bevel travels through the wood parallel to your outside wall. Now, the diagrams I'm going to show you on screen now are actually for a different demo and a slightly different shape of bowl, but it will at least give you the idea. So, there is the diagram, and you can see right back here, look, at position 1, the bevel is parallel to the outside wall, okay, and the bevel is in contact with the wood. If we then come a little bit further down the cut, you can see now that the bevel has travelled, or the tool has travelled further in to the cut, but is still parallel to the outside wall. And then when we get even further down, not that one, when we get even further down, you can see that the bevel is still parallel to the outside wall, and that is really, really important in order to get a parallel wall that is nice and smooth straight off the tool. Now, what we don't want to be doing is trying to use our left hand to pull the gouge into the wood. The left hand doesn't pull the gouge that way. The left hand supports the tool as it moves through the cut. All of the control comes from your right hand. Now, I'm left-handed, so I've had to learn how to do this, for me, in a cack-handed way, because my left hand naturally feels like it wants to do the work, but it's actually the right hand that does the work. Let me try and illustrate that for you. Let's go over the top, and I'll take another cut. So you may not be able to see it just here, but I've got the bevel parallel to the outside wall, and if I start this cut, I can just put my finger on there and even take it off, and if I change the camera angle and just bring that cut back again, I do need to bring that up just for a little bit of support. You should be able to see now that down to this point here, that surface off the tool is absolutely lovely. And that's because I'm using the gouge in a way that moves the gouge through the wood with the bevel parallel to the outside wall, or parallel to the cut that I want to make. If I'm, forgive me if I'm overcooking this, wrong button. Let's zoom out a little bit. So if I'm here and I'm starting to make this cut, the cut wants to go this way. If my left hand is on the tool here, I need to be able to move the tool round through the cut. But if my left hand is pulling into the wood this way, the cut wants to go that way. What I end up doing then is putting a massive amount of bevel pressure into the wood, which is where you'll quite often get that knock, 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 knock sound as the wood's going round, and then you end up with that funny lumpy spiral mark. That's the bevel knocking off the wood, or rather that's the wood knocking the bevel, and the bevel is rippling the surface of the wood in there. So it's really important that we try and move the gouge through the wood in the shape that we want. And the pressure of the cut, sorry, I get very, very passionate about bowl turning. So the pressure through the cut goes through where you're cutting, which is this part of the wing of the tool, just here, just off the toe, with next to no pressure back here on the bevel. So we've got to move the gouge through the wood like that. We're twisting moving the gouge through that there. If we're pulling back this way, we're going to end up with problems. So let's get rid of a bit more of this, a little bit more of this wood. Now this bowl gouge has actually gone dull. Iris, would I consider using a coring system? Yes, I absolutely would consider using a coring system for two reasons. One, it would probably give me another bowl blank out of that burr, and two, I don't know where it is at the moment. But I'm not 100% certain that the blank itself was thick enough at the beginning. I'm not sure. I will have to check, because I only had 4 inches. I only had 4 inches available. Anyway, let's move on. Come back to the main screen and we'll go with that camera. So I can feel now that the gouge is beginning to get dull. Yep, that gouge is now dead. I can't do any more with that. So I'll switch over to another one that I've got. It's sharpened exactly the same at 50 degrees. And that is immediately cutting better. Now, did you notice there I just made the cut a little bit shallower? And you'll also notice that I'm cutting quite high above the horizontal centre line. I need to go a little bit narrower on the wall. I'm not quite happy with the proportions here, so I'm going to have to make it a little bit narrower. I'm just going to move the tailstock cam across a little bit so my arm doesn't get in the way. Oops. There we go. Let's just bring that round. There we go. My arm shouldn't get in the way now, but it might. Still a little bit on the wide side. Oh, I've got to show you this actually. Bear with me a minute. So here's Natalia, and if I take another cut here, I'm showering Natalia in shavings. She's got almost as many shavings on her as I have at the minute. So we're getting there. I can now start taking a lot of the middle out of here. I've left a lump in the middle there just to give the piece as much strength as possible. And you'll notice, even though I'm just taking away essentially waste wood, I'm still making sure that my tool presentation is as good as it possibly can be, simply because it's the most efficient way of doing it and safest way of doing it. Okay, now I'm going to take a little step back from this and use the tailstock camera, and we'll zoom out a little bit. And what I'm looking for is a bowl where the rim is proportional to the diameter of the piece. I do not subscribe to mega thin walls. You don't have to have mega thin walls on a piece for it to be good or professional or anything like that. The wall thickness needs to be proportional to the diameter. Now, it can be too thick to be proportional to the diameter, but I very rarely see a bowl where the rim is too thin for the proportions to the diameter. But when it comes to something like a Burr, definitely, obviously, a proportional wall thickness, but I think perhaps a slightly chunkier wall that's in proportion to the diameter is a good thing. Doesn't have to be wafer thin, definitely not. So I'm stepping back now. I'm stepping back and I'm looking at the piece with my glasses on and my glasses off. Not that I can see it very well with my glasses off. And I just want to see how it looks. And it looks pretty good. It looks pretty good. I don't think that's going to need a little bit. I don't think that's going to need any more off there. So I'm happy to continue down to the bottom now. So always stop and consider what you're doing before it's too late. You can always take more off. You can't put it back on again. this the gouge is beginning to vibrate a little bit. I've got a few more cuts to do. Not many. I'm going to go and sharpen up the 1/2 inch gouge again. So bear with me a second. I will slow the lathe right the way down, and then you can just admire the piece as it rotates. And I go and get the 1/2 inch gouge a little bit sharper, because I think I'll be able to present it well enough without it vibrating around all over the place. There we go. Right, just coming back. Okay, right, I do only have a few cuts left to make now, but I don't want the tool bouncing around up and down. So I've now got the 1/2 inch gouge. That feels better. Come back up here, make a nice cut. Bring the handle up. Stop there and we'll just have a look at the surface off the 1/2 inch gouge. Yeah, look at all those features in there. No wonder the gouge is bouncing around. So I've got a couple more cuts I need to make from about here. The wall's good to about here. And then I just need to smooth that down there just with a couple of cuts to get the depth. Whoop. Just went in there a little bit aggressively, which is why the tool bit me. But luckily, because I'm fairly relaxed, that little warning there from the bowl gouge didn't do me or the wood any damage. Just stop there and have a feel. That's feeling good. I do need to take another cut from back here, actually. Yeah, all the way back here. So I'm going to start this cut back here with the smaller tool. Just there. Going to use the 3/8 gouge just to pick up the cut from back here carefully. Let me just get in there a little bit closer for you. Pick up the cut from back here. Go really carefully round there. Squeeze the tool into my body. Stop the lathe just there, that's better. So the gouge just started to vibrate just there on the rest. That's feeling really good now. So I'm just chasing this little ridge down a little bit further at a time. Now I can pick up the 1/2 inch gouge. There we go. Nice and easy. And just finish that cut nice and gently in the middle. Down there, stop and have a feel. One more cut. Yeah, one more cut. Forgive me if I go quiet. I'm concentrating. It's not an easy job demonstrating turning a bowl and chatting constantly. yeah, so just give me 2 ticks. Let me just concentrate on this last cut. Pick that up from there. Really gently round that corner. And then just nip it across the middle. Just there. So we've got a nice surface off the tool all the way down. Oh, I've got another cut there, you know. Speed the lathe up a touch. A little bit more. So run the bevel down there and the cut should pick itself up naturally. Just nip that last little bit off the bottom. Check I haven't got a dimple at the bottom. I do, there's a tiny little raise just at the bottom there. Got to get rid of that. Can't leave a little dimple at the bottom of your bowl. I'll just nip that off carefully. That's better. Good. Right, I'm super chuffed with that. That looks really nicely in proportion. Now the only odd little bit there is that little bit of bark. Yeah, that's the only odd little bit. Okay, right, now we can put a little bit of decoration on the rim. Now if I'd thought about it or remembered, I should have done that earlier. Which is the sharper of the 2 3/8 gouges? That one. So I'm going to put a touch of a little scallop on the rim here. I really like a scalloped rim at the moment. I'm doing a lot of scalloped rims. That I find they look nice and they feel nice. So you can just do a very delicate scallop on the rim. Oh, what's that camera doing all the way over there? There we go. That reminded me a bit of University Challenge. Walthamstow Jones. And then the camera zooms in and out. It's quite funny. I don't know where Walthamstow Jones came from. Sounds like a character in a book. Walthamstow Jones. Okay, so I can just rock the gouge in a nice arcing shape very, very lightly. Remembering there's a big lump of soft bark in there. Go around there nicely. And you may, yes, I think you can just about see that in the shadow, just in there, that we've got a little thingy. A little scallop in there. It could be a little bit deeper if I'm very careful. Very, very carefully. I'm being more careful than I would be if this was a solid piece of wood, but because there's bark there, I do need to be careful. There, that's got it. That's magic. That feels really good. And you can see that it's a little bit deeper just down there in the shadows. Good. Right. Now we can sand this and then we can get a little bit of colour on the rim, just a little bit of colour with a tiny little gradient going down inside the bowl. Add the oil and then voila. Oh, we won't be finished because I need to take the tenon off. Right, can I have the extractor on, please, my darling heart? I will put the dust mask on. And then on the inside, we'll just run through the same grits as we did on the outside. Put the air filter on. Do that up on the back. Oh, where did that get caught? That's there. So I'll use the drill against it because it's just a little bit quicker than using the inertia sander. So we'll start with the 120. We'll use a new 120 grit disc. Put the fan on.
That's blowing some hot old air down here now. Okay, so on the inside of the bowl, whereas on the outside I was working around this sort of area, on the inside I'm going to be working around there. Full tap with the drill. And then when it comes to doing the rim, let's just come out here a little bit. I can manipulate the tool. Sorry that's not in focus. It will be if I do this, hopefully. Yeah. I can manipulate the curve of the tool to match the curve in the scallop. There. Not pressing into the wood, just letting the disc do the work. That's leaving me with a really nice shape on there. Stop the lathe, have a look, feel the walls. That feels good. Just going to grab the airline, because now we're on the inside. A lot of the dust gathers on the inside, so we can just give that a little bit of a blowout, and we'll blow it out between the grits. So I'll do a little bit more of the 120. I'm being very careful not to slip over the rim here. Yeah, being very careful not to slip over the rim, because I don't want that rim to roll over. I want that rim to be nice and crisp. Doesn't have to be sharp, it just needs to be crisp. And then on this edge here we'll put a little chamfer, so it's not too sharp when you pick it up. Again, I don't want it to be rolled over. I want it to be nice and crisp. Just wondering if you can see that, if that focuses. Let's just stop the lathe a minute. You see, yeah, there we go. You can just see there we've got a nice chamfer on there, which gives it a crisp edge, but it's not rolled over. I can't remember what grit I'm on at the moment. I think it might be 240. That little chamfer just on that edge again. Blow out the shavings and check. Let's check for any tool marks. You see, that feels really lovely. I'll zoom out a bit. That feels really nice on the inside there. No tool marks that I can see. Last grit then being the 400. Whiz around there fairly quick. Keep the head of the tool moving all the time. Keep as much of the disc in contact with the wood as you can. Do a little bit on the rim, very carefully. And that chamfer just there. That's good. Stop the lathe. Blow out the shavings. Sorry, blow out the dust. That looks really good. Whoop. Why's that gone over there? I didn't put that over there. There. That looks really nice. So, right, extractor off, and I can take the dust mask off.
Yeah. Now let's have a think about a little bit of colour on the rim. It does need a little bit of colour on the rim, so I'm going to colour it from over here. I'm going to put the colour on from over here, because if I put it on from this side, there's going to be some overspray over here. So if what camera is that? That's the tool rest camera. Let's go with the tailstock camera. There we go. So if I put the colour on, spraying on this side, there's going to be some overspray down here. Whereas if I put the colour on over here, the overspray goes off the piece over there. So we'll go with the earth again, and we'll put the colour on this edge on the rim, and we'll put a little gradient coming down into the bowl. Just a little one. We don't want it too big. So we'll use earth again. Let's just lose the airline. Just give that hose to Natalia and she can get rid of it. So I'll come back to the earth. Right, so we'll do this with the lathe running again. Get myself a piece of kitchen towel. Just doing a little test spray on the towel there. So I'm going to work on the rim first. Let me just see if I can get that into the area where I'm going to work. I can see that there are some questions and some smiley faces coming up. But I want to get this bit done first because it's beginning to get a little bit late. Okay, so I'm going to work on the rim, and I'm going to start the spray off the piece, so pointing over there, and bring it in, and just do that a few times. There you go, you can just see that colour going on there. And now I can start to pull that gradient down into the bowl a little bit. There, just a little bit. That really looks good, I think. Let's zoom that out a touch. It's a little bit too yellow on the screen with that camera. Let's go and look at this one. That looks better. This one's a little bit more natural looking. And then if we stop the lathe just there we go. That looks nice, I think. I'll clean the bottle, I'll clean the colour out of the airbrush just by giving it a spray onto the kitchen towel. If you're good, you'll remember to wear gloves. Dyes and stains are called dyes and stains for a reason. They stain and dye things. Now, it's really, really quite warm in here tonight. The fire has been belting out all evening, which is why I'm turning in a t-shirt in mid-December, which is really nice. And the fan up here is blowing all of that warm air down onto the piece. So I'm going to turn that fan off and give the piece a little bit of a going over with some kitchen towel, being very, very careful because this is a Burr piece, so I'm barely touching the surface because there's little bits of features everywhere, so particularly on the rim here, so I'm being very careful on the rim. So this is just denibbing those colours a little bit, because where it's water it has raised the grain just a touch, but the process of denibbing just knocks that grain down a touch. Now that looks really nice. So we'll go with the oil now. Charlie, are they food safe? Not quite sure what. Oh, you're referring to the colours. They haven't been tested as food safe, so I don't know if they are or not. The colours, but the oil is. So oil. Let's use that one. Oil going on. Oh, look at that. Are there any other questions? Natalia's just going to read me out some questions. I think.
Yep. Apart from possibly speed, is there any reason for using a drill to sand as can't pronounce this word, to a handed sander?
Oh, is there any benefit to a drill over a hand sander? No, not really. Yes, a drill is going to give you a quicker result. But it's very easy to oversand something with a drill. Very, very easy to oversand something with a drill, particularly woods like spalted beech. It's very, very easy to oversand spalted beech with a drill. And plus, I personally, I don't like using a drill for sanding. I much prefer using an inertia sander. Let's find it. 2 seconds. I prefer using an inertia sander like that one there from Simon Hope. Much prefer it because for me at least it gives me a bit more of a sense of a hand finished item, whereas a drill, yes, I know we're using an electric lathe, but an electric drill just feels a little bit mechanical, as it were. So I prefer using the inertia sander, and plus there's a little bit of additional skill required to use an inertia sander. Just putting another coat of oil on the top, or on the bottom of the bowl rather.
Another question?
Another question, yep.
What kind of compressor is that gun attached to?
What kind of compressor? I am using probably the most popular type of compressor available for airbrushes, particularly in our community. I will just go and pick it up. Natalia actually was very kind. She went and got one that we have in stock. We do have these available for sale. There we go. It's one of those. It's airbrush compressor, piston type, model AS186. I've been using these for years, and for at least 7 or 8 years, and I've just started using my second one. And it's my second one because I actually blew the plug on the other one. Absolutely brilliant. Now, when it comes to using compressors for airbrushes, I highly recommend you get one with a tank like this one. Let's just hold it up there. Get one with a tank on the bottom. 5 litre tank is ideal. Use one with a tank because you've obviously got a piston going up and down that's compressing the air. Now, if you've got a compressor without a tank, what happens is the colour comes out of the gun like that at the same speed as the piston. So you get sort of a pulsing colour as it comes out. Whereas if you use a tank, that airflow coming out is consistent. The sound effects are free, everybody. You get free sound effects with a Martin Saban-Smith demonstration. Another question?
Yes. The gradient on the outside went from bottom to top, but the reverse on the inside. Any reason for that?
Oh, is that Barry? Dire emergency, yeah. Yeah, hi Barry, good to see you. Is there any reason why I went from bottom to top on the outside and top to bottom on the inside? No, other than it would look a bit odd with a gradient going from bottom to top. So we've got darker on the top going down to lighter. So when you look at the piece, your eye is drawn into it. Whereas if the gradient was from the bottom to the top on the inside of a bowl, then the eye gets sort of thrown out of the piece. The reverse is different, or the reverse happens on the outside. Where you've got it'll be lighter at the top. There'll be more light at the top of the bowl when it's flat, when it's sitting down properly on a surface. So the darkness of the additional colour down here will just disappear into the shadow. So you get a very subtle hint of the colour on the outside. So the colour down the bottom here is aiding the shadow line rather than being anything aesthetic.
Yep. Next question. If you don't have an airbrush or compressor, can you put colours by hand?
Oh, that's a good question, Martin. Can we put the colours on by hand? You can, but it's really, really tricky to get a nice fading gradient. You could do your best and then sand it off with a 400 grit to get that gradient, but you'll just have to play around with it and see how you get on. Right, okay, now that piece is it's done now pretty much. I'm going to take it off the chuck and then replace the chuck with the coal jaws. Put that over there, and we'll put the coal jaws on and then take the tenon off, and we'll get through this bit as quickly as possible because we've been here 2 hours. So if you've been here for 2 hours since we got started, thank you very much. I'm going to have a mouthful of water in a second because I am fully thermaled up this evening. I've got long johns on. I don't have 2 t-shirts on anymore because I am absolutely swelteringly hot. Now that sounds really bad to be complaining about how hot it is in the workshop, but my word, I'm absolutely roasting. Okay, there's the coal jaws. Find the chuck key. Oh, there it is. Brand new studio, and I can't find the chuck key still. Tailstock camera, zoom that out. Why is that doing that? Oh, I think I know what it was. Yeah, okay. Right. So that is preset number 1. So I can put that in there. Close the jaws. Thank you, John, for your super chat, and I noticed Leisure sent over a super chat earlier on as well. Thank you very much. Really appreciate that. If you have enjoyed it this evening... Oh, I need to do the discount codes. I haven't done those yet. If you have enjoyed the demonstration this evening, then do stick around. There are some discount codes coming for you. And if you've really, really enjoyed it, watching this free demonstration, then a super chat will go a really long way to helping pay for Natalia's admin time this evening.
Thank you.
Right, okay, let's get this up. Whilst I do this, because it's going to be relatively boring, I will throw the discount codes up onto the screen for you. I'm going to swing the tailstock back round again so I can give the piece a little bit of support whilst we do this. So here we go. If you are in the UK, there is a discount code for you on the screen just there. Xmas10 is your discount code, and you can use that at hampshiresheen.com for anything that we've got in stock. We haven't got a massive amount of stock left, being Christmas, but there is some, and there may well be some more tomorrow afternoon. We'll see. But that discount code is valid until Sunday the 15th of December, which is when this demonstration will vanish from the internet. So Xmas10, 10% discount at hampshiresheen.com. If you don't want to use it and there is something you want, give it to a family member and they can perhaps get you a Christmas present with it. There we go, that's a nice idea. So I'll leave that one on, and then here is your code for Denmark. So if you are in Denmark, one of my favourite countries in Europe, then head over to Renee's shop and use bowl 10. There are 1,800 products available underneath that code. So if you're in Denmark and there's something that you want, doesn't have to be Hampshire Sheen, then you can use that code at Renee's shop. The link is on the screen just there. And then if you are in the USA, you can head over to our mates, our buddies at Woodworld of Texas. And thank you, Silk TV. Nice to hear from you, Paul and Lynn. If you're in the US, head over to Woodworld of Texas and you can get 10% off Hampshire Sheen using the code STUDIO10. Now that code says it expires on Sunday. It's actually valid for the next 2 weeks. That code just there. Let's go over the top. There we go, we'll zoom in. So UK code Xmas10, visit hampshiresheen.com and you can get 10% off anything that we've got in stock. And that code is valid until Sunday the 15th of December. I'll leave that up there for just a few more seconds. And if you are in Denmark, you can use bowl 10. And there are 1,800 products there. Thank you, Norman. 1,800 products available for you if you're watching from Denmark. And then the USA, head over to woodworldtx.com and use Studio 10 at checkout. Terms and conditions apply to all of these, of course, because they do. Right, now then, I want to turn that off and that one off, and then zoom in on this one. Camera 2. Can I zoom in any further on that one? Ah, yeah. Right, okay, there we go. So, just while we were going through the discount codes there, I've just taken off most of the tenon, and that's left me with a teeny tiny little nub to get rid of just there. So the only thing that's holding this onto the lathe now are those little buttons. So the 1/2 inch spindle gouge here, I'm just going to take some tiny little cuts just to work that tiny little nub off. It's nice and sharp. Tourist is a little bit on the high side. Thank you, Josh. Much appreciated. There. And then we'll do two last little cuts across the bottom, just there, like that. Oh, there we go. The Danish code can be used from other countries as well. Thank you, Renee. And there we go. There is the nice, smooth bottom. But we're going to add a little bit of detail to the bottom after I've given that a little bit of a sanding. Only a little bit, don't need too much, it doesn't need to be super smooth. It feels really nice anyway, because the tool presentation was good. So I'm going to give it a little bit of a knock back with 240 grit. Give that a little knock back. I'm not going to put any colour on the bottom. But I am going to put some decorative lines because, let's face it, the bottom there looks a little bit boring. So we'll put some decorative lines on there with a point tool. Get the tourist up just a little bit more. That's too high now, and the tourist and the tailstock's in the way. slide the tailstock out of the way. Sorry everybody, let's just sort this out, move that out of the way, and then we'll just put a few little marks, a few little lines in the bottom, just to say we've paid attention to it. There we are, just a few little lines there. Thank you BW Wood Turning, I really appreciate that. That's awesome. And then we can put a little bit of Danish oil on there. Oh, Ian Lee, thank you too. That's amazing. Really appreciate that. There we go. Little bit of the oil on the bottom there. Right. Okay. So we're almost finished. If you've got any more questions for me, then please do put them in the chat, and I'll answer those as we go through the final stages, and I'll give you those discount codes once again. So Natalia's going to keep an eye on those questions for me.
Yeah. What size needle do you use on airbrush?
Oh, good question, John. The airbrush needle is 0.3 mil. There. Okay. Good. Right, what am I looking for? I'm looking for that camera. And back there. That's good. I will take this off. Take this off there carefully. I'll just lose the, whatever these are called, coal jaws. Spin those off quickly and put them back. And yeah, right. And then the bit we've all been waiting for is the reveal. There we go. There is the bowl. It looks a little bit yellow on the screen. But I'm sorry, there's a little bit of kitchen towel just disappeared into my mouth just then. I do apologise. Right, I'm going to put it up here. Make sure that sits nicely in the middle. And then I can hit that button there. That'll disappear over there. And then there we go, folks. There is our bowl from this evening. Chris Seymour, thank you very much. Ray Driver, you missed the beginning. Right, yes, you can use the intrinsic colours. They are water-based colours, and you can thin them with water if you need to, but you don't really need to, because they can be used in an airbrush straight from the bottle. So I'll just leave that spinning round there for just a few minutes. If you do have any other questions, please do put them in the chat. Natalia's got another one for me.
Yep. What size are the coal jaws?
Stuart McLean, lovely question. The coal jaws I'm using are up to 16 inches. They're the standard Nova ones, which I think are 14, with the 2-inch extension on them. Ooh, just get rid of that little bit of kitchen towel. So the last thing to do with this is to actually go round it and just pull out any teeny tiny little bits of kitchen towel.
Which is best, dyes or stains?
Oh, Billy, that's a fantastic question. What's best, dyes or stains? I'm going to assume you don't know the difference. If you do know the difference, I apologise, but for everybody else, if you don't know the difference between dyes and stains, there is a difference, and it does matter. Dyes are liquid, so they penetrate the wood. Stains are essentially a translucent paint, so they contain solids, so they sit primarily on the surface of the wood. Which is best? depends on what you want to be doing with them and what the purpose is, essentially. So I prefer dyes over stains. We do a range of stains, but the intrinsic colours are actually dyes. So dyes are liquids, a liquid colour that penetrates the wood. Stains generally contain a pigment that sits more on the surface of the wood, so they can be seen as more of a slightly translucent paint. There you go.
What's best to clean up your airbrush? Water or brush cleaner?
Oh, airbrush cleaner all the time. Yes, always. Yeah, if you've got airbrush cleaner, use airbrush cleaner to clean your airbrush. It does have a solvent in it, but most airbrush cleaners also contain a lubricant, and that lubricant weirdly lubricates the colour as it comes out. Weird, I know, but airbrushes are normally used for paint, which is very, very thick, so a lubricant on the brush, on the needle, helps the paint come out of the brush. If you are stuck for airbrush cleaner, then methylated spirits like this, or if you're in the US, then denatured alcohol or even isopropyl alcohol will work just fine. Just in case you've missed it in the chat there, Renee in Denmark says that the code for Denmark, there it is, Bowl 10, expires on Sunday the 15th of December. It does say that right down the bottom there, but I didn't actually mention it. Terry, thank you ever so much, Terry, much appreciated. Right, so there's the Denmark code. Here's the UK code again, Xmas 10. Order what you want at hampshiresheen.com, or give it to somebody who might be buying you a Christmas present and ask them to buy something from us with it. There you go, Xmas 10. And then if you're in the US, Studio 10 available until for the next 2 weeks actually. Studio 10 at woodworldtx.com, our mates at Woodworld of Texas, just outside of Dallas, sort of in the Fort Worth kind of area, I think. Right, any other questions, my darling heart? Nope, Natalia says there are no other questions. I will give it another 20 seconds. Thank you. Yes, I will give it a few more seconds. We'll go back over there. You can have another look at the bowl. I'll put some pictures up of it tomorrow. We'll do another little video of the piece. But I really, really enjoyed turning that this evening. I hope you did too. If you have sent a super chat, thank you ever so much. I really, really appreciate it. It goes a really long way to help us keep doing this for you. Now, next week being the 17th of December, next week is a stupidly late night demonstration here in the UK, because next week is America and Canada night, and I'll be doing glass-like lacquer finishing for you guys over in the US and Canada. The demo next week will start at 7:30 Central Standard Time. That's Dallas time. Oh, Clara says, super demo, Dad. Oh, bless her. Oh, and Jasmine enjoyed it too. Good evening, girls. Nice to see you. Thank you for tuning in. Yeah, so next week, Tuesday the 17th, demo starts at 7:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. So that's kind of Chicago, Dallas, that kind of band. If you are in the UK and you want to watch that, you can tune in at 1:30 a.m. on Wednesday the 18th. So if you are in the US, Tuesday 17th, 7:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. UK, that is 1:30 a.m. GMT on Wednesday the 18th. Yes, Natalia and I must be absolutely bonkers. Right. Okay, so I'm going to say thank you very much to Natalia for helping me out this evening with the questions and what have you. John Cook, difficult to go through how to prepare a whole oak burr. Depends how big it is, you know, that sort of thing. So maybe somebody else in the chat will be able to run through that with you. Basically, just cut it round, stick it on the lathe and turn it. It might be an idea to rough turn it first though. So yes, big thank you to Natalia. Weirdly, I'm pointing over here, but she's actually over there. So thank you to Natalia for helping me out with the questions this evening and keeping the fire stoked up. And I'm not sure when we're going to see you again. Yeah, I'm not sure. I think the next demo will be in the new year. Yeah, because the week after next is Christmas Eve or Christmas Day, and then the week after that is New Year's Eve or New Year's Day. I'm not sure. So it may be in the new year. But I will have by then a whole host of demonstrations and stuff to be sharing with you, and it should hopefully all be scheduled out on YouTube for you to see over the next few months. So that's it. Thank you very much indeed, everybody. I really, really appreciate your company this evening and your questions, and of course your super chats. If anybody's near Sandon Woodturners on Saturday, I am demonstrating at Sandon Woodturners on Saturday. Thank you, everybody. Good night, and I will see you guys next week if you are in the US, and if you want to stay up late enough, I'll see you silly o'clock Wednesday morning. Thanks, everybody. Good night. I really appreciate your time. Bye for now. That button. If I don't see you, then have a very Merry Christmas and a peaceful New Year, and I will be seeing you. Cheers, everybody. Good night.